It's the end of the tour. I'm in Cleveland. It's snowing. It is 2:19 in the morning, and I am a spent force. It was wonderful. I mean, I think all the shows were great. I don't think I had a bad time at any of the shows. Certainly some members of the audience might have had a bad time, and that's very hard to be them. Gee, it'd suck to go and see a show you didn't like. That's happened to me a lot. For anyone who came out to the shows and didn't like them, rest assured that almost every show I've ever been to, I have been disappointed by. But I think most people were not disappointed. I don't want to give myself ears. I think most people who saw... you know what I did for some of these shows? Not all of them, and I'm sorry if I didn't do it at one you came out to. But I stood at like the door at the end, and I met people who had bothered to come out to see me. And this is something in Australia I don't do, and hadn't previously done in America, because I thought I wouldn't like doing it, because on stage you're doing comedy and you're as charming as you can be. You're as good as you can be. You've really put thought and effort into that. And then I just always thought, actually meeting people, they would be disappointed in me, and potentially I would be disappointed in them. It's always a possibility. But I just did it at the end of this last Cleveland show. I wasn't going to, but they said, did you want to meet people on the way out? And I said, yeah. And then as we were going up, I said, oh, no, we don't want to do this. And they said, are you sure you don't want to do this? I said, all right, we'll do it. And I realized I'd been stuffing up by not doing it in the past, because so many people had things they wanted to say, and people had gifts for me and letters, and they, books, and they wanted me to sign things. And it was really sweet. It doesn't take no effort to meet, a bunch of people, and then I feel rude when there's like people behind them, and I have to, I'm having a great conversation over here with one set of people, and there's someone there, and it's cold and snowy, and I have to go, you have to leave now because I have to meet these next people. It was really sweet and beautiful. And I'm sad that that's over. And I feel dumb for not having done it before, and I think I'll do it again. Oh, thank you for coming out. Those are the last shows that I'll be doing with those jokes, and that'll be out in a special that I've recorded already before that started. And then some of those jokes got better over the tour, and it's already recorded. So that'll just disappear into the ether. I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, I'll tell you. It's late, I'm wired and spent at the same time. It's like a speedball of emotions. I can hear it vibrating inside of my head, and I keep looking around, and it's nothing. Well, where shall I begin? I got to open for my friend Shane Gillis in Dallas, and Shane Gillis, who's blowing up at the moment as an Adelaide Crom hat wearer. That's really nice to see. So from Dallas, I went to Denver, and then I did the Comedy Works in Denver, and that's an unbelievable... I don't want to just... It's going to be a lot of me just saying... If I go through it blow by blow, it's just going to be me going, and that was great. And then what a good room that was. But I got to Denver, and then I went to New York City, and I didn't have gigs in New York City, but I got to do a couple shows. That was nice. And I got to hang out with my dad and my friend Riff and my friend Sam. And there was one experience we had in New York City going to my friend Sam took us to the oldest Irish bar in Manhattan. It's like 150 years old, and it felt so old. And then I looked it up, and it's like roughly as old as the pubs in my hometown, which made it feel... It still felt way older because they hadn't changed it as much. And I was looking around at this pub where they haven't taken things off the wall since like 1910, and I was going, it's so old, which is weird because I never feel that way about like rocks. I'll take the thing out of my mouth. And I had they had a cheese board. It's funny the things that stay with you. They had a cheese board at this old Irish pub. and it had raw onions and cheese that almost didn't taste of anything. And the onions tasted just profoundly of onions. I think I spoke about this on the Patreon already. Anyway, the onions were really great, and it had mustard and crackers. And then from there I went to Milwaukee, and I had started to feel a little bit, my voice was starting to go in Milwaukee. And then by Chicago, I was falling apart. So in Chicago, I just went to bed and then got up and did, 1, 2, and then 3 shows. It was 3 nights in Chicago. I got to see nothing in Chicago, except the beautiful people who came out to the shows. Thank you very much. And what an incredible club Zanies is. And it was off to Cleveland. I got to do Hilarities tonight, and that's incredible. It was just incredible. The Milwaukee Improv, wow, incredible. I mean, I'm just saying they're all incredible. And they are, and it feels beautiful. It feels weird to get to join. They have pictures up on the walls of the American comedians who've been there before you, or people have signed the wall, or they've got headshots and stuff up. It's so cool to be a headliner at these clubs. It's an unbelievable gift, and I don't take it for granted, and I'm very grateful for everybody who man, tonight there were some people who'd come out from Steubenville or had studied at Steubenville, where I first was when I started in America, and I almost cried several times thinking about this part of the world and how beautiful it is. Excuse me. I've become emotional, but I didn't. Other than that brief time in New York with my friends where I didn't have shows, my sweet friends of my sweet father, who nursed me through feeling very unwell in Chicago, went out and got me McDonald's and things of that nature. But you don't really get to see anything. And some people do. I think if you're not run down and you just go for a weekend at a time, then you do actually get to see things. But there was a monkeys documentary. Not about the animals, but about the band who didn't play their own instruments. I think they might have. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I won't be looking that up. Anyway, one of them goes you get on a plane and it's closed, and you get out of the plane, and then immediately after that you go to a hotel and it's closed, and then you get in a car and you go to the stadium, and it's huge, and then you're back, and it's just these experiences of lots of people, lots of things, lots of world, tiny, no one, alone, hotel room, transit, constipation, diarrhea, Imodium, constipation again. Wow, we're doing a show and everybody's very small, very quiet. And it's very lonely. But tonight when I got to spend some time with people after the show, and that was very meaningful. And I think there's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. I don't know. I think if my stand-up was more of a product, if it was something that I'd thought about and gone, this'll work, which of course to some extent it is, but it's really what I want to be doing, and just things that I want to say. And then this is not a well-formulated thought, and I apologize. I was thinking about how like meet and greet packs and experiences, and when you see a pop star, like in that Katy Perry movie at the end. I mean, I'm doing this on a very low scale. I'm just meeting people at the door after I finish doing a stand-up comedy show. This is not quite the same as a $10,000 meet and greet Katy Perry experience. But it's like they come around and they meet Katy Perry once, and she's she's being Katy Perry. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that, and I was spooked out by that, and why do a podcast now, Jimmy? Because I'm not going to be able to do it when I get back home, because I'm going to be with the family. I hope I can get to the point where I can put this into words. I had it before when I was lying on the bed, and I've got absolutely sweet FA now. It's just that it feels pure and nice and good. I'm grateful. and I mean that. And I feel yuck saying that. Because there's nothing more grotesque. Like, it's a public thing to do stand-up comedy. It's a commercialization of being funny. And I don't know if there's room for it after the revolution. I love doing it, and I hope there is. It's not going to be my revolution. Someone else's revolution where they might have to take it away. Anyway. I don't suspect there are stand-up comedians in heaven. I don't think we'll have time for that because time won't exist. The point that there won't be a lot of jobs that are necessary here in heaven. Will there be bricklayers in heaven? That's an interesting question. Let's find out. Do you know what I mean? I'm sorry, I'm struggling with it. It's maybe the root problem here is I just got handed money for doing what I love, and it made seemingly other people happy as well. And that feels like there should be that should not everything people think about capitalism means that shouldn't happen. I shouldn't make a reasonable amount of money and people have a nice time and feel like they got their money's worth, and I feel like I'm doing the thing that I want to do. But so I feel like there should be guilt and shame encroaching there somehow. But it's not yet. I'm just real tired. And you get to hear me talk. I feel weirder about this. I feel weirder about having a podcast. To buy a boat, which I still intend to do. And then I have to remember that I was coming to America to buy a boat. And you can go back, you can listen to the journey to get to this point, but yeah, this is definitely a mistake. I shouldn't be doing a podcast. A podcast about a man who wishes he wasn't doing a podcast at that time, but I'm also happy to be doing
Prices roll and walls are slow in a free and easy way. But give me enough of the viral stuff that's made me Galway Bay. And feast it all from Donegal, Sligo and Leitrim too. We'll give them the slip and we take a sip of the real old Mountain Dew.
I got a letter from a man at the show tonight. He handed me an envelope. And I'm sorry to anyone else who'd written me a letter on an envelope at any of the other shows where I didn't stand and meet the crowd. I understand now that's something I should have been doing, and I will do that in the future. There will come a point where you can't do that. I mean, hopefully, maybe there comes a point where you can't. I don't know how long this train's going to keep on rolling. I think I opened for Shane at a 20,000-seater arena, and if I get to that point, I won't be doing it. I don't think anybody does. I think it would be a security risk to do so, but certainly when 100 people have come along to a club, I think it's the least you can do to... I now say it like a point of principle, as though it's something I hadn't just started doing. I think it's a point of principle to meet with people and shake their hands and say, thank you for coming. In between takes, I put another one of those in. This is a letter that I got, and I'm going to read it. I'm going to edit. There are bits that I'm not going to read because there are bits that are not fully complimentary to people who aren't here, and that seems unfair to them. So that's just for me to take on board as private advice. I think this is written as private advice, and I won't say what your name is, sir, in case you don't want me to read it. But I thank you for doing it. And I won't read out any bits that might be compromising or give away who you are. Anyway, oh captain, my captain. Not a very fitting exclamation to send your way, as it turns out. I have yet to read any Walt Whitman, but a quick Googling, goo, I searched the meaning of the phrase, and it seems that it's as intended as a metaphor for the death of Abraham Lincoln and or a leader. I don't wish for you to expire any time before your time. That in mind, I think it best that we stick with Catamaran Ho as the preferred greeting of acknowledgement and respect. It's a great letter. I've been called/inspired to take notes on the JDFMCP podcast, of which I've listened to every episode in its entirety in less than 1 month, finishing just 2 days ago. I'm so sorry to anyone in the car with you who might have had to listen to that as well. I did meet a woman tonight who liked the podcast. It was a couple. It's rare. Often the girlfriend is dragged along. I would very much love to exchange these praises, suggestions, ideas, and questions in person. But at this point, in following you on your journey, I also realize that you may be too tired from the long road you've traveled or potentially put off by my approach. Genuinely, if after the show someone came up to me and said 3 pages worth of notes on the podcast, this is better. Excuse me. To avoid it being incredibly awkward or draining for you, I've transferred my notes to a computer so that when it's received it should be both more concise and legible, scattered as it will seem/be. Here we go. Guests. While almost any conversation can be made interesting with the aid of a solid raconteur such as you, I'm touched. Not every guest will be as notable in that regard. Here are some of the guests I found appealing for various reasons. And the ones that he didn't like, I'll leave out. Scout Boxall was the first that came to mind when I decided to start making this particular list. Scout, come back on the pod. She was a funny guest, and funny goes a long way on a podcast hosted by a comedian. Mind you, that's not meant to be a slight in the least, as I believe it's your unspoken endeavour to become a new age renaissance man. In that journey, I say to you, bravo, you're well on your way, but I digress. Let's stay on topic. Sam Clark is always a pleasure on the cast. I appreciate enjoying hearing what sounds like genuine friends banter and have fun. Amos Gill is always great. He's definitely in the top 3 on my list of favourite guests. He is hilariously unruly and a good counter-personality to your own, though I imagine you as unleashed when you don't have to keep to the JDMCP in the forefront of your mind as you're recording. If I don't have to bother to say even the initials of the podcast, it seems to be helpful. Ruby Setnick has very quickly rose to the top of my favourite comedians, which I discovered through you list. Boy, there's a lot of lists. I've begun following many of the comedian guests on Instagram, my main source for laughing at everyone's bits. Ruby's great. Big fan of Ruby. She had me laughing out loud immediately. I will absolutely continue to follow this hilarious rising star. Come on the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran plan. Get at least 1 fan. While it feels unfair to actually list them in any particular order, I have to say Eve Ellen Bogan is my favourite guest. I almost didn't read this out because I think Eve's going to enjoy it too much. Eve was with me in Chicago. She did a great job. Eve Ellen Bogan is my favourite. You like that, Eve? Eve Ellen Bogan is my favourite guest. She's very funny, and I favour the chemistry the two of you share more than any other guest to date. I hope you keep her involved in the cast, as great chemistry can often be difficult to find, and Eve is very complimentary to your persona. I agree. I love Eve. She's so funny. Random list of things which I enjoyed on the podcast. Lugubrious Huckster, Smooth Dolphin, Dinosaur Ghost, hilarious costume. Song at the end of the Media Domination episode. I'll have to go and check that. The Deductibles of a Pimp is a great book. Don't recall which guest said that, but it was hilarious. The Love Poem on the Up and Down episode. The idea of dancing as means to finding a partner as opposed to mounds of promiscuity. Ocean News. And he points out that it's difficult. He has some ideas about how to make ocean news happen more often. They're good ideas. He's saying, make my own news. Get the boat. Do ocean news from the ocean. And he liked the auto-tune episode. Now's maybe a good time to say... I try not to read the comments. I read the comments. And some people are going, where's the podcast gone? It just kept going on audio. I just couldn't be bothered to do a visual. There's an audio. There's heaps of audio ones. Sorry. I don't know if I'd said that, but you can get them over there. There's one where I'm doing auto-tune. I thought it was terrible. Lots of people told me it was okay. I'm not a good judge of what's going to work and what's not. And then it's just praise for that, so I'm not going to... That's for me. That's for me to enjoy it privately. Some suggestions. Here we go. We got suggestions, ideas, and questions, and I'm happy with that. We can use those things rather than just basking in someone enjoying the pod. Although we should do that too. Go on tour with Ruby, Eve, Amos, and Sam. It would be absolutely amazing, and your collective brands will surely grow and shine in the limelight. You know what? And I think our schedules might actually mean that's possible. What a force team up that could be. Wowza, says the brain when I think about it. Wowza, says the brain. Your committed and often off-key singing paired with familiar yet generally warped melodies is priceless. The cast, no, the world needs more. Thank you. I thought about doing one there, but I thought it would be hackneyed. I've got to save that for another time, but you better believe I put that behind me. It may cost money, it may not, but I believe you could have fun putting out your own rendition of the song I'm a Man by Ty Single, or T.Y. Single, I've never known. That's me saying that, not in the letter. I would very much enjoy listening to such a creation. Perhaps you could do more mobile interview episodes. They're very funny, real, and enjoyable. Shout out Suka Beer. I should talk to more Uber drivers on the pod. A few ideas. He's got some ideas for me. All right. While it seems I was able to scrap my notes, suggest you forego the card game and instead create a board game, I'd still have a touch more to say on the matter. Yeah, so I was thinking about having a tradable card game and then decided against it. And then I'm very happy that the man who wrote this letter actually outlines a lot of the reasons. So he had these... I thought about doing that, and then I said, no, I'm not going to do that. We're going to do a board game. Now, the board game's probably going to be a replayable card game, but it'll be like a board game played with cards rather than a trading card game. You just buy it once, and then you can play it with your friends and family over and over again. I'm very excited about I'd like to say this about the board game. I did a chat about the board game, and I'm going to be doing another talk with Sam about like planning steps for the board game in the future. I'm not interested in... I feel all right. I feel conflicted. I'm going to get back to this. Just again, now's maybe not the time to have a complicated thought about something that we can't put into words. Now's the time to read words that somebody else has written and have the occasional response. I think I love board games. I love playing them. They made me very happy when I was a child to play them with my family. And they make me very happy now when I play them with my wife. And I think when I play them with my children, it will bring me... There's not a lot you can do with... We can play Snakes and Ladders, and it's a terrible board game, and it doesn't teach anyone anything. But as they get older, it stands out to me as a shining light and joy to come. I feel weird about commercialization, as you may have picked up from the start of the podcast. So we did an episode about bringing out the board game, and we're selling a shirt, still on sale at the time of this being released. And yeah, I just don't have the money. I'm moving house. I'm paying rent at two different places. Like I don't want to start designing the board game because I don't know how to do that. And Sweet Nick is doing that, and I'd like to. Yeah, I'd explain that, but like use the money from shirt sales to give him some money if people are interested in that as an advance on the board game before we split it 50-50. Do I pull back that advance? I haven't decided yet. I think what I'm trying to say, like, I don't want to like just churn out crappy, cheap merch and get money from it. So up to this point, I haven't done like shirts. There are shirts people can get through the Patreon as like, that's how, and I feel weird about Patreon too. I feel weird about a lot of stuff. Like, if the board game didn't have me on it and didn't have my name attached and it was just a great board game and we were actually able to, like, spend the time and energy entering it into the board game world as an independent board game that people enjoyed and we worked really hard on it, that's what I'm shooting for. And that's what I'd like. Rather than just, like something cheap. And I don't want to just take the fact that people are watching me and turn that into money. I want to turn it into a boat. But I want to turn it into a boat in a good, decent, interesting way. And so that's what we're trying to do. And I just wanted to get that off the... Like a niggly part of me when I was talking about, like, we're making a board game. I wondered if people thought it was like some dumb Happy Meal thing to just, like, get people's cash and not put a lot of care and effort into it. And I just want to do it. I want to make something beautiful. And I want that to be one of the things that I get to help make. So that's that. That's all I have to say about that. But our friend has more to say on the topic. So, yeah, the trading card game route, like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh, is a money pit for children and their undoubtedly middle to low income parents. I loved that. The board game is meant to bring families and or friends together and is a one-time purchase. Good on you, and good on you for the decision to go with the board game. I appreciate it. In addition to the original JDF MCP board game already in development, I thought it would also suit you to repurpose the game. Excuse me, burping, having a beer, having one of these beautiful Cleveland beers. I'm hot. Woo! I really appreciate receiving this. It makes me feel much better being... You know what else helped me feel better after the show? Was going out to the casino in Cleveland with some of the boys who came to the show. That was sick. The board game, yeah. Okay, so you should repurpose the game of chess to reflect the James Donald Forbes McCann Catamaran plan in a fun, tongue-in-cheek way. Of course, the king would be depicted as you in full captain garb, standing tall and proud with your head high, one arm across the chest, tucked into the opposing breast of your jacket, and perhaps wearing a monocle, like that. 2 monocles. 2 monocles. That's what I often think about rocking, because I got 2 bad eyes. But I'm sad that I can't wear a monocle. The Queen, I thought, could be a nun-like figure with hands. Here's just a joke that a lady told me once that her parents were optometrists, and they owned an optometry place, and they got a divorce. It was funny. It's like, they both had to open a monocle shop. I don't think she ever said it on stage. The Queen, I thought, could be a nun-like figure with hands tightly pressed together in a prayer form, but with your face under the habit. This man might have done some deep diving and found out about my previous life as a comedy Monopoly nun. And if not, that's very funny. An alternative to the hilarious version in the Queen, in this scenario, I believe Poseidon could be just as, if not more fitting, considering the other water-themed choices. Perhaps the Queen Nun James could be an expansion piece to purchase. Yeah, still commercialising. Love that. Bishops could be Kraken or Loch Ness monsters. Knights could be barrel-chested mermen holding tridents, also with your face. The rooks could be modest catamarans with cross insignia on the side of each boat. The pawns could be a series of different shaped kelp. Lastly, the board itself should obviously have some kind of ocean backdrop scene. It's my understanding that 3D printing is an increasingly accessible, affordable and effective way to create such intricately designed pieces. If I ever have time, it's a great idea. And if you want to do it, I give you my full blessing. And you can have the money. I'll just be happy that it exists. I'll big you up on the podcast. I'll have you on to talk about it. It could be fun to have a segment on the podcast called something like Prove It or Put Your Money Where My Boat Is, in which fans and followers can prove to you through one format or another how they've demonstrated the pledge in real life. And this man who wrote this letter also printed out the pledge and was like, he gave it to me in envelopes and also sheets of paper so that people who I was meeting afterwards could also take a thing of the pledge. This is one of the... It's very touching. I found... Now, I do have to respond to this bit. Your wife should start turning her gears for an offshoot podcast idea that she would host. Following a great tour with previously listed comedians, your brand will be too big to think small anymore, and satellite success should be considered. Conan and his wife, Lisa, are a sound example of this instance. Believe it, achieve it. There's no way. Brother, I can't get her to talk into a microphone on my podcast. Do you think I'm going to get her to have her own podcast somewhere else? I love my sweet wife more than anything. She's the greatest. My favourite person. And I love her so much. There's no way she's doing a pod. There's no way. Honey, I'd love it. She's so funny. She's so smart. She's so beautiful. People would love her. The world would love her. But she's a real hide that light under a bushel type gal. I'm sorry to say. One person in the family probably should be. Between us, we're one normal human being. I had a vision for the No Choices sandwich shop logo. This man's done the homework. Can't wait to get a sandwich shop. Thank you so much for bringing it up. I had a vision for the No Choices sandwich shop logo. It would be a cartoonish depiction of you standing outside a storefront underneath the No Choices sign, To the left of the sign would be you dressed as a cook or a chef with a smile on your face and open arms, welcoming patrons to your shop, while on the right side of the shop would be you again, but dressed as a dictator with a stern look on your face and stiff/militant posture with one arm out, suggesting that the patrons halt. You want to be careful in a dictator costume statue with one arm out, suggesting that patrons halt. You want to be real careful with that. And the other strongly pointing to the fine print on the sign that reads, "Don't bother asking the clerk for another option." I love it. Only thing I would potentially do is, like the board game, if I can take myself out of that and have that be a product that works independently, I'd be very moved by that. You know, if it's a character of a dictator, I like all of that. I just, I don't want to hawk myself because I feel weird. This is all strange and new. I don't mean to crumple this. Through my enthusiasm of reading it, I treasure this letter. Realization. Bold, capital letters, underlined. Colon. After listening to the Ouroboros episode, I thought about how much fun it would be to do a reading with you where we treat it like an old radio show and voice multiple characters. I am myself a lifelong fan and study both comedy and music since I was a boy. So kind to give your own skills to the pod as well. After coming up with all the ways other people can give skills, your skills too. I enjoy making people laugh in a multitude of manners, from family to friends to perfect strangers. I love getting a smile from someone. Since I was a child, I've had fun manipulating my voice and practicing to sound like a great many other people and characters from all walks of life. I wish I could do it. I can do South African, but that's about it. And not a particularly good one at that. Ugh. Oh, South African. Nah, apartheid. I'm losing it. It's too late. And while this now feels like a shameless look at me letter, it doesn't. I can assure you it's not the driving force behind this communication. The idea remains the same, but I felt compelled to at least offer my services at no charge to help you with such a fun project. It would be a truly amazing to collaborate with you. Excuse me for reading the letter badly. I'm very tired. Yeah, I agree. And I hope to get to do one of those episodes. I got to do like one. I think about it all the time, how fun a radio play episode would be. And if I do get to be a radio, if I get the time and effort to write a radio play episode, I will get in contact with you. God bless you. Questions. How do you stay politically informed? What sources do you prefer to utilize? I'm less well connected politically and in the media landscape than I've ever been before. I talk to people who are smarter and better read than me. I've gone third hand. If media is second hand, I'm taking it third hand. Yeah, I have no idea. Drudge Report. I don't like going on the Drudge Report, but just compulsively out of habit, I continue to go on the Drudge Report. Even though I'm pretty sure Drudge doesn't own it anymore, something about that homepage. I've spent so long checking the Drudge Report, it makes me feel calm. But that's less to learn anything about the world and more a strange itch that I'm continuing to scratch long past it being useful. The sirens don't go off anymore. Do you always go in spontaneous on the podcast, or do you have a storyboard session prior to the cast with any of your guests? Love that you would think I'd managed to plan very much of this. Sometimes I'll have like 3 words on a piece of paper when there's a guest. And that Matt McCusker one I did prepare. The rest of it is appallingly off the dome. I didn't know I'd be reading this letter. I'm glad I am. Which, if any, is your favorite method and environment for creative writing? I yearn to get to have a favorite one. Where I can find it. Here's my preferred method for creative writing. I lie in bed on my phone, which is now being used to record this podcast, and I type up poems with my thumbs. And it you know, one day there'll be a desk and a chalet, you know. Don't disturb Father. He's doing his important thinking. How do you handle writer's block? Though I imagine the answer is going to be you don't get it, as you always seem to be in a creative mindset. For stand-up comedy, Before I go on the road again, when this special comes out, I need to come up with another at least 40 minutes of stand-up comedy. And I've got nothing. I don't even have ideas. I don't even have ideas to turn into something at the moment. And I'm just going to force it. So I'm sorry. It goes on its own. You force it. You just do it. And you just churn out crap. I don't know when I'm churning out crap. I don't know when I'm churning out something good. Some of the things that people seem to enjoy the most have just been me forcing something to happen. And almost everything that I thought was great has been a disaster in the minds of other people. I'm very attached. I hope you find this letter less and instead of a more thoughtful I certainly do. God bless you and yours, James. Sincerely, contact information, which I won't share. Thank you so much. I feel much better. I think I'm calm enough now that I might risk being able to go to sleep. I love you, I miss you, I want you, I need you. Catamaran ho, goodbye.